is a local election night update.
I'm Marcos Guadarrama with a local election update. Polls have now closed in southern Idaho. The Idaho Secretary of State says more than 820,000 Idahoans have voted so far. That will increase as polls in North Idaho don't close for another half hour due to being in the Pacific time zone. We have team coverage from Idaho Republican and Democrat parties. Let's get over to Scott McClendon, who's covering the Idaho Republicans.
We're here at the Republican headquarters, and it is building to a fever pitch here. Was a little apprehensive earlier on, but as the night has gone on here and more states have been called for Donald Trump, it's become evident that the folks here are in a party atmosphere. You can see behind me, they are ready to throw a party here. Now, still early, looking at those blue wall states, none of those have been called yet, so they're cautiously optimistic here. Also, they're keeping an eye on all those Idaho State Senate and State House races. We're going to bring you all those results coming up. HJR 5 is also the big ballot initiative here, as well as Proposition 1, of course, the top 4 primaries, and then go into the ranked choice voting if that passes. Now, Dorothy Moon, the chairwoman of the state GOP, said moments ago, we're here to save the state and to keep it bright, bright red. We'll let you know shortly after 9 if that's the case. Back to you.
Now, Dakota Castat's DDA live at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise, where Idaho Democrats are gathering tonight.
Well, there's a lot of energy in the room here. I'm now joined by Mayor of Boise, Lauren McLean. Lauren, you're not running this year. What's it like being in the room with your fellow Democrats and watching them go through the process?
Well, thanks for being here tonight. And you're right, there is so much energy. You know, it's so fun to be on the ballot and to be on the doors talking to voters, but it's also really nice to be knocking on doors for other candidates. And that's what I've done this election cycle, to be here tonight with everybody, feel the energy, talk to a lot of candidates and voters in the last couple weeks, appreciate the work they're doing to stand up for our families, to fight for our freedom, to make sure we've got jobs of the future. They're working hard and ready to celebrate tonight.
Well, and a lot of Democrats, I believe it's 34 in House seats that are, and as well as 26, I believe, running for Senate seats here in Idaho. Can you tell me a little bit about the enthusiasm that's led to so many Democrats running for office here in our state?
Sure, and right here in Boise, we've got quite a few races with long-standing legislators that are here tonight celebrating. Others that we have new candidates that have been busy knocking on doors, talking to voters. We've got races for the county highway district, a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of excitement. Most importantly, though, a lot of commitment to fighting for our families and our future to make sure we've got opportunity here in Boise and in this state that we love in the long run.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll be here for the rest of the night bringing you updates in downtown Boise. I'm Dakota Castat's DJ reporting.
wear it now. A PBR cowboy hat. I'm not saying I drink PBR. Right now. You know what? Okay. All right, Risch is coming over soon. Sound.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You sound good on my end. All right. Sophie, I'm rolling here and I'll send to you, okay? Are you rolling? Okay, very good. Senator Jim Risch joining us here at Election 2024. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
So, obviously, while everyone, you're keeping an eye on the presidential race.
I am.
Just like everybody else is.
And I'm also slightly interested in the U.S. Senate.
And you and I haven't had a chance to talk about that so much because everything has just been so fractured overall with a lot of the attention. Tight race going on in Texas. And
yeah, I think Ted's been declared. I could be wrong. But,
okay.
If that's the case, then there's only one left, and that's Montana that you have to watch. We need that seat in Montana to flip the Senate.
However, looking at what happened with the House, where even though the Republicans have control of the House, it was still somewhat fractured. And there was a lot of power play going on. Do you see something like that happening in the Senate?
No, that sort of thing doesn't happen in the Senate. The nightmare for America is not that Kamala gets elected. That would be a nightmare in and of itself. But the real nightmare is if they take the trifecta. If they take the presidency, the Senate, and the House, this becomes a different country.
There's got to be some degree of check and balance.
Absolutely. The check and balance in America has always been the filibuster. It gets a bad rap, but the fact of the matter is this country is center-right. Not by much, but it is. And it's the filibuster that's kept us there because neither party can do the things that are out on the edge of the party. They offset each other, and it really takes 60 votes to pass anything. And that's tough to do. So
we're talking with U.S. Senator Jim Risch here. You got involved in a state issue in Prop 1. You were against Prop 1.
I was, yeah.
And it's not often we see the friends fracture. You had Governor Rotter come out in favor of it, Marv Hagedorn come out in favor of it, you and both Congressman Fulcher coming out against it. Were there any internal discussions, or is it this is just a disagreement?
Well, we've had internal discussions on this issue for a long, long time. But look, we're friends.
Right.
I mean, you may find this hard to believe. Vicky and I have been married 56 years, and we occasionally still have a disagreement. It's how you resolve those. But look, I think that thing is just a solution looking for a problem, and we've gotten along over 100 years without this, and that ranked choice voting is going to confuse people badly, I think. I really do.
So we're going to keep an eye on that as the night goes on. As we take a look at Ohio right now, Moreno up 51 to Brown's 45. In Michigan with 25% in, We have Slotkin beating Rogers 52-45. Keeping an eye on some Senate races as well.
Close races.
Yes, close races. So, sir, you have a long night ahead of you.
Yeah, that's true. You know, one thing you want to watch is if we take the Senate, there are 4 Super 8 committees. Idaho will be chairman of 2 of those committees. Myself on one and Crapo on one. So.
You're gonna throw a haymaker at me when I ask you this question, but I gotta
Sure.
ask it. I got a job.
No, you
to
don't.
Do.
No, you don't.
I have to. You know I'm gonna ask it. I have a job to do. What's your?
You
future?
know, I have never liked the question when they always say to me, "I have to ask this question." No, you don't. But go ahead.
What's? Do you have your future plans in mind tonight, or you'll take that as how many? Do you do another term?
I'm going to run again in 20. I'm going to be in cycle here in a few minutes as soon as the polls close.
Sure.
So I've told everybody I'm going to run again. My health's good. I feel good. Look, in the Senate, to get anything done, you got to be there a while. And I've got the seniority now. I'm in the upper 20s in seniority. I'm going to be chairman of a Super 8 committee. It's important for Idaho. And so, yeah, I am going to run again.
Senator Jim Risch, thank
All
you
right.
so much. The
Nice
people
to
are
see
calling you. Appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
More than 144,000 door knock attempts. Over 133,000 phone call attempts. Our investment this year is at $1.7 million for Idaho Democrats. We're outraising the Idaho Republican Party, and we are outworking them. We're clear-eyed about how hard it is in Idaho. We're clear-eyed about the map that we're dealt in Idaho, but we will not be outworked, and that's what you all have showed this year. And like I said, steep hills to climb, especially in a year like this. We know presidential years favor the Republicans in Idaho. We know we're seeing the conservative migration of people who are coming here, not because they even like the politics that are very conservative of Idaho as they are, but they see Idaho as fertile ground for their far-right extremism, and they're moving here in droves. We have out-of-state, billionaire-funded PACs running attack ads full of lies against our Democratic candidates who support public schools instead of costly voucher schemes that send dollars to private, religious, out-of-state, for-profit, you name it, all kinds of quote-unquote schools with zero accountability. So we have these tough challenges. But what did you all do this year? You stepped up. You didn't say, oh, it's too hard, we're not going to do anything, we're going to sit back. You stepped up and you leaned in to the challenges, and I'm just so proud and inspired by you all and glad to be in this fight with you. And while we celebrate this historic effort and all the work you have done, we can't forget the stakes. At least 4 women across the country have died because of abortion bans, just like Idaho's. And my Republican colleagues in the legislature have done nothing to protect women, and in many ways just made our abortion laws more extreme and more harmful. Women being life-flighted out of state was perfectly fine with them, and they went all the way to the Supreme Court to try to save that reality. And we're not out of the woods yet. When it comes to climb back our reproductive freedoms, Democrats are the only ones that Idahoans can count on. And we have, yes, and we're all in this room tonight, and I know thousands of Democrats across Idaho voted wanting their reproductive freedoms back. And that's going to be a steep hill to climb. That's a fight we're going to be fighting. And we have so many closer fights that we're going to be fighting come January, where Democrats are going to make the difference and our margins are going to make the difference. When it comes to beating back vouchers, as I already said, there's a reason those out-of-state billionaires are pouring money into our states, because they're very close, and Democrats are the ones who are in committee, giving them the margin, giving us the margin to stop those voucher bills so far. When it comes to the Republicans' annual attempt to repeal Medicaid expansion, the only affordable health coverage option that 84,000 Idahoans are currently enrolled in, and that's wildly unpopular among Democratic and Republican voters alike. I think it's 73% of voters favor keeping Medicaid expansion in place. What are the Republican legislators trying to do? Rip away health care from all of those folks, giving them no affordable option, putting them back into the coverage gap where they earn too much to qualify for Medicaid and too little to qualify for a tax credit in the health exchange, driving up the cost of health care because we have uninsured folks who still show up in the ER and still show up in the hospital, and that has to get paid for somehow. That's an issue where we need enough Democrats to save Idahoans' health care. When it comes to the launch scholarship bill, we were the deciding vote by a single vote. You know, you can credit my friend Ned Burns, who won his election by 37 votes, or Nate Roberts and Pocatello, who won his election by 112 votes. Democrats made the difference on that. And then when it came time to fund launch scholarships a year later, when high school graduating seniors already had their award letters in hand, they had their future for their plan already in hand, a majority of Republicans voted to defund it and break that promise we made to our young people who just want a chance to work towards that training that they need to get into a good job with good wages. So the stakes could not be higher. You all know it, and that's why you've been putting in the work. And win or lose, we have to be so proud of the work that we put in and remember that it's always important, that it's always worth fighting the good fight. And I wouldn't be in the trenches with anyone else than all of you. And now I would like to turn the podium over to our Mayor, Lauren McLean.
Well, good evening, Idaho Democrats. How's everybody doing? It is really wonderful to see so many of you here tonight, and I've talked to this half of the room, so I need to make sure I talk to this half of the room, table by table, but reconnecting with each other after a whole bunch of hard work that so many of us have put in fighting for families. You know, it's great to be here because we're celebrating the work that you've done both here in Boise, in this region, and for many of you from around the state. In fact, I love talking to women over here. There are 2 school board members from Wallace and a school board member from Lewiston. I was telling the women from Wallace that I was knocking on doors in Wallace in 1998 for a candidate up there with Mary Lou Reed and some other people. I love that part of the state. It's been a long time. It is awesome to have you guys here today. We've got candidates around this state, as Lauren said, and I talked to a lot of them today. We've got hard-working Julia up in Moscow, who I think, where's Sonia? Sonia's been organizing educators, getting up there, knocking on doors. When I called today, she was actually breathless. She was out knocking on doors. I talked to Nate and Mary Shea and Pocatello, who were knocking on doors in the snow today. I mean, we thought it was cold here, and then I was thinking about the snow there. And even, we mentioned Ned, folks up in Ketchum and Blaine County. Ned walked 31.5 miles this weekend and hit 1,000 doors. When I talked to him first, it was 951, and then he called me back when he hit 1,000 because I said he had 49 more to go. Then I told him if he just got another half mile, he could have said he ran a 50K.
Usually tends to have some coattails, and to bring along that extra percent or extra 1.5% or so that will help push his Senate candidates or her Senate candidates over the line.
Talk with Senator Risch about this a second ago. In the House, where the Republicans have control, there was a fracture. There was a disagreement in leadership. Do you see that happening in the Senate moving forward if the numbers hold and you pick up a seat or 2 or more?
I don't believe you will see a fracture that will cause the kind of leadership crises that they had.
Mm-hmm.
But you will when the margin, let's say we had 51 senators or 52 senators.
Right.
When we passed the landmark tax reform back in 2017, what's now called the TCJA, we had 52 senators, I think. It took us nearly a year and a half to get the number of votes we needed out of those 52 senators to do that. So yes, it is a problem, but it's not the kind of crisis problem that they had in the House last Congress.
Senator Mike Crapo joining us here. How does your role change if that majority is picked up?
Yeah, well, if we pick up that majority, I become the chairman of the Finance Committee, which I think is the most powerful committee in the United States Congress. It has control over the entire Internal Revenue Code, so this tax cliff we're going over, I'll be the chair of the committee that helps to stop that from happening. It's also in charge of international trade and all of the entitlements for health care and Social Security, and that's where I'll be able to be the chair.
So I just heard you say you're the boss of the IRS.
That's right.
Well,
that committee is.
And we've talked a lot about that because, there was a lot of plans to, hey, let's give the IRS a bunch of enforcement officers. Let's give the IRS a bunch of this. Let's see how we can crack down financially and govern that way. And now they got to go through you to do that in part.
That's exactly right. They gave them $80 billion, which was like 500% of their budget, annual budget. And they did so that they could dramatically ramp up enforcement and audits of American citizens so that they could get more tax revenue. And that's the kind of thing that we will stop.
Do you have the check down? Do you say if the Senate flips and you have control, do you have that priority list where, here are the priorities set by your committee and others, or is that too early?
The answer is yes and no. We do have the outline. We know what we need to do, and we know what we want to do, and we've been working in depth to do so. There's a counterpart committee, the Ways and Means Committee in the House. We've been coordinating with them well also, and so we need to get the political muscle to do so. Right. But we know what needs to be done.
Well, I tell you what, busy night ahead of everybody, keeping an eye on the Senate races, keeping an eye on the presidential race. Senator Mike Crapo, I have to ask, because I asked Senator Risch the same question, how many more terms do you have left in you?
I never decide that until the next one gets closer. I'm 4 years away from that decision.
Okay.
3 years away from that decision.
And you might get an increase. You might get a different job moving forward. So you see how you wear that for a little while.
Who knows? I don't decide it that far in advance.
Sir, appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
You bet.
A lot of absentee ballots. I think 80% or so were returned just in Ada County. Even before Election Day, we had a lot of early voting. And with the same-day registration, that's getting a lot of people who, you were saying you had students today even be like, I guess I will go register today and vote.
Yeah, and so it's great to see all these Idahoans wanting to participate, having this high completion rate for returning absentee ballots. And we'll see the numbers on new registrations today, but it's really exciting to see people coming out to vote, casting their vote, expressing their opinion for what they want to see in the state.
So what are some of the surprises that we could see with some of our state elections here that we'll be getting results rolling in soon on?
Well, we have a few competitive legislative districts that could be very close. We'll also be closely watching some county races. Some of those have been very close in the past. So we've got a handful of different things that we'll be looking at. A lot of those down ballot races, and so that's where turnout can really matter.
You were saying the ACHD, one of the races there between Pickering and Arnold, they've faced each other before, and it was only a 4-vote difference, every vote mattering.
Right, 4 votes. I mean, that is as slim a margins as you can get, and so we'll be closely watching that race as well.
But we don't expect to have full results tonight when it comes to all of our elections, right?
I mean, it just depends. We do have some counties that take longer to vote, so we might see pretty complete vote counts from Ada County, but at the statewide level, we may be still seeing some votes being counted late into the night.
Okay, and we're going to be here throughout the night. Jacqueline's going to be with us. We've got an hour broadcast coming up on Fox 9, starting here in just a minute, and then on to CBS 2 at about 10 o'clock rather, and we've got it all streaming for you on idahonews.com. Keeping you updated on our local races tonight.
We're here at the Grove Hotel at the Democratic Party's election watch party, and the Democrats are telling me there are 54 Democratic House candidates and 27 Senate candidates on the ballot. It's a record for the party this year, and we're here asking questions and finding out how they're feeling on this very important election night in 2024, and we'll be here throughout the night to keep you updated.
And I'm Scott McClendon. We're live at Republican headquarters where a celebration has started here based on a number of the national victories that are going down across the board. We're going to talk to the senior senator from the state of Idaho coming up momentarily for his reaction on tonight.
And we're hoping to help you make sense of all this tonight. So we've got Boise State political scientist Dr. Jacqueline Kettler here to help us break down all the numbers, her analysis of what's happening in the election. Our coverage starts right now.
This is a local election night update.
All right, it's 9:01. That means rolls are starting to come through, starting to shape up with race for president. Right here, you can see the results. 99 electoral votes for Kamala Harris and 175 for Trump in this breakdown right here for you. This will be rolling up throughout the night as more states are called. We'll share those results with you as it happens throughout the newscast here in the next hour and a half. The latest results you'll also see scrolling at the bottom of your screen as those continue to update throughout the night. Here in Idaho, polls closed for about an hour here down south and just a couple of moments ago up north as they are Pacific time and we're in Mountain time. As of the latest update, the Idaho Secretary of State, Phil McGrain, says more than 826,000 people voted in this election. And anytime now, we do expect the first results to start coming in as they're entered into the systems. We are going to be with you again over the next hour and a half, 90 minutes here on Fox 9, and CBS 2 will be coming in live as well with local election coverage starting at 10. We have reporters covering Idaho issues and Boise State political scientist, again, Dr. Jacqueline Kettler, the political scientist there on campus, helping us bring things into perspective tonight, helping them come to our level of understanding here. If we're not real big experts into politics, she's here for us to do that. Let's take a live look at the Ada County Elections headquarters. You can see that they've got the ballots here, and this is where they've been locking those machines, and now they are busy counting so we can get numbers in. Part of their transparency is so you can see all of this happening. This is what's happening in Canyon County's election office. A lot of people out there counting the ballots, making sure everything is going smoothly. The machines did all test out as counting correctly last week and earlier this week. All right, so we're going to keep this feed up for you, or they're going to keep this feed up for you all night. You can always check in, and we'll be checking in on it every once in a while as well. As we wait these results for all the Idaho races, let's get to our live and local coverage. We've got Dakota Cassette-Didier at the Grove Hotel with Idaho Democrats. But first, let's check in with Scott McClendon. He's with the Idaho Republicans at the Courtyard Marriott in Meridian. Scott, what's going on?
Thanks, Janae. It's a party atmosphere here now at Republican headquarters. They are watching a lot of victories come off the board tonight nationally, and just got some big news on the state of Ohio, the Senate election there. And joining us now is Senator Mike Crapo, who is the senior senator from the state of Idaho. Senator Crapo, how are you feeling here tonight about the Republican, the GOP party overall?
Well, you know, we are very hopeful that we can elect President Trump. It looks good, but I'm not counting any chickens until the eggs are hatched there. We needed to win at least 2 Republican seats back from the Democrats in order to take control of the Senate, and we have won 2 of them. There's another one we may win, and so it looks very good. It looks like we are going to have a Republican majority in the Senate.
And that being West Virginia and Ohio would be the 2 that you would have flipped at this point.
The third one that still could happen is Montana. And there may be others. Wisconsin and Michigan are also still in play.
Now, if that happens with the Senate, I mean, you are the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee. You would become the chairperson. Tell us, setting tax policy, tell us things that you would look to do as the chairperson.
Well, I appreciate that question because I think most Americans are now realizing that the landmark tax legislation we passed in 2017 under President Trump's leadership then was one of the things that created the most powerful economy, more jobs, more wages, better benefits, and actually helped retirees and everybody across the board. That law is going to expire next year. And what that means is if that is allowed to happen, there will be a $4 trillion tax increase on Americans. And the majority of that will fall on people who make under $400,000, most of them under $100,000 or $150,000. And our first job is to stop that from happening. And then there are many more tax reforms that will help to make us more competitive with China, help us develop the kind of economic growth and capital formation in America that will make this economy surge again.
What are you looking for here in the state of Idaho? Specifically, Proposition 1 is on the ballot. How are you feeling about that tonight, and will it go down, or do you think it'll be passed?
You know, I haven't seen any incoming vote tallies on that, so I don't know the outcome yet. I personally oppose the proposition. I don't believe ranked choice voting is the way that the Idahoans want to vote. They want to be able to know who they're voting for and to make the decision as to who the first place person should be each time around.
Is there anything that you're worried about tonight at this point in the evening?
Well, yes, I still want to see the votes for president to come in solidly, and particularly in Michigan and in Wisconsin. I believe if we do well in either of those two states, in Pennsylvania, that he will be president. I also want to see the House win back a few more seats from the Democrats and get a stronger Republican majority, because if we have the House, the Senate, and the White House, we can make much more progress in rebuilding the kind of America and rebuilding the economy that has been literally stripped from us in the last 4 years.
Senator Crapo, we really appreciate your time here tonight. Good luck the rest of the way. We look forward to bringing you all the results as they become official from Idaho races and the national races as well, and the ballot initiatives. Janae, back to you.
And you heard some people cheer in there. That's because Idaho was just called for Trump, as Senator Crapo was talking about that. So let's now check in with Dakota at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise, where Idaho Democrats are gathering. Obviously a point of conversation there right now too, Dakota.
Well, Janae, we just heard from Boise Mayor Lauren McLean, as well as the Democratic Party Chair Lauren Necochea. And what they told us is that this is a bit of an echo of the 2020 election, and that we need to have a little bit of patience as states continue to count their full voter rolls. But what they did tell me is that they've got a lot of faith here for Idaho's elections. Idaho Democrats tell me that they knocked on 145,000 doors, 20,000 of those in the last 4 weeks, and made 135,000 phone calls in support of their candidates that are running all across the state. And looks like right now we're being joined by Democratic Party Chair Lauren Necochea. Thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. As the night is going on, can you tell me a little bit about how you're feeling?
I'm just feeling so proud of the effort that we've made. It's historic in Idaho, 144,000 doors knocked, over 133,000 phone calls made, and we know what's at stake. We know 4 women have already died nationally because of abortion bans that look just like Idaho. So we need women's lives depend on change in Idaho, and that's the work that's ahead of us. The map is harder for for Democrats in this state, and we're clear-eyed about how hard it is, but we're fighting to save women's lives, to save our schools from costly voucher schemes, to make sure the Republicans don't succeed in their plan of kicking 84,000 Idahoans out of Medicaid and leaving them without health insurance and access to medical care. So we're motivated by all the things we need to do for working Idaho families. We want to stop all those big tax cuts that flow to the people at the very top, whereas a child care worker has gotten $27 in benefits in the last 4 years of tax cuts. The top 1% has gotten $15,000. So we need balance, and we need better leadership.
Well, and so we just heard that the Republican Election Watch Party, there's a lot of enthusiasm about the national races happening right now. I'm just wondering how you feel about the national picture as we continue to get numbers throughout the night.
Yeah, it's time for us to wait and see. We saw this 4 years ago. It took days for all those votes to be counted, and the votes that come in slow count the same as the votes that come in fast. So we're just going to be patient and watch how it plays out.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, and we're going to be here throughout the rest of the night. We'll continue to bring you updates as we hear them in downtown Boise. I'm Dakota Castetz, DJ, reporting.
All right, again, Idaho just called for Trump by the AP tonight. We're still awaiting more results, but let's talk about this presidential race. We've got Boise State political reporter, or political political scientist. We've done a lot of these election hits here. Dr. Jacqueline Kettler talking about what's going on with this presidential race as Idaho has just called and what they're talking about the states that he needs.
Right. It's still a close race, but Trump seems to be doing quite well where he needed to. So far, a lot of the states that have been called are not really ones we consider very competitive. We still have some of the really major, like the really big swing states left to be called. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, all states that we'll be watching closely as they continue to work through their counts.
And these are states that they've been spending a lot of time in, a lot of effort on in the last few days, last handful of days. And we are even learning about long polling lines in Nevada. So like she was saying, some of these votes are going to be pretty slow to come in.
Right, and some states have laws that allow them to accept ballots through the mail and longer, how they count them. It differs, so some states will take longer to count all those votes than others.
Now, I don't think anyone was necessarily surprised, right, that Idaho is called for Trump at this point, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so what do we see moving forward here, you think we'll be going? Is it just going to be focused on a lot of the local races now, right, as a lot of the attention has come from there with that?
For sure. So we're going to be looking at some of these county races, legislative races, but Proposition 1 will be another one that we'll be watching closely throughout the night.
Yeah, and when it comes to the congressional races, I mean, the Senate, Congress, they can have a big impact on taxes and that kind of stuff that they were talking about too when it comes to this.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Both at in the U.S. Congress, both the House and the Senate are competitive. So we're closely watching some of those races to see who will have majority control in both of those chambers.
And we're going to keep the results coming in as they trickle through tonight. We've got it scrolling at the bottom of your screen. We've got it on idahonews.com, our social media. Let's take another look at the presidential race as we head out for a quick commercial break. You can see right here, Idaho now red for Trump there. We've got 175 electorals in for Harris, 211 in for Trump. We'll continue our election night in America coverage locally, nationally, and statewide when we come back.
The local election night update.
All right, thanks for joining us here on our election night coverage. Let's take a look at the presidential election as we have a live look at the White House. We've got Trump just called for Idaho, and Idaho's got 4 electoral votes, and it's gone Republican since '68. So obviously no surprise there with Trump winning. He did win with 64% of votes back in 2020. As of right now, with 46% reporting, 52% supporting him. Let's take a look too at the live look at the Republicans gathering in Meridian. Of course, that was an exciting moment for them when that came in. We were going live talking to Senator Mike Crapo, and we could hear them cheering in the background as Idaho was called. Scott is there keeping you updated on what's happening at this watch party. And then we've got Dakota with the Idaho Democrats. They're gathering at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise. Here's a live look at what's happening there right now. More coverage from both of these parties coming up.
Well, I'm Andrew Vincent, live in the newsroom, and let's take a look at some of the latest results on the issues you've been voting on tonight. So first, we can take a look at Prop 1, if we can. Now, well, we don't have those results as of now, and we've been watching HJR 5 as well, and the Nampa Auditorium District as well, but it looks like as we get more results, I'll be able to share with you later.
Yeah, with polls just closing up north, it takes a little bit of time for some of the results to come in. So we'll keep you updated. I'll be scrolling on your screen and we'll be checking in on there. We've got Dr. Jacqueline Kettler in with us, Boise State's political scientist, and we'll be talking with her about reaction to these initial results coming in and what we expect with the kind of turnout we've gotten so far. Before we get into those discussions, let's check in with, we're just gonna stay with on these discussions actually. So let's talk about the results coming in, and it is gonna take a while to see them come through on a national level and on a local level and statewide level.
That's right. It takes a while to get all these counts processed. So what's important at this stage is to kind of look at the percentage of votes that are in when you're looking at like the Idaho or the, for example, the county election results to see how much is in. So because we may see things shift and change as a higher percentage is counted.
And we did have good voter turnout so far. We had really good absentee returns early on, 80% pretty quickly, and we had early voting for days. So we think 65% is what they think voter turnout is so far this year, right?
So a healthy voter turnout, meaning a lot of people are engaged and interested in participating, which is great, and it will be really interesting to see how that turnout affects some of these down ballot races.
And we'll be talking about that once those turnout results come in. For now, let's check in with Savannah Hankard. She's watching the school levies for us.
Well, I am following races that are impacting the education in Kuna and Caldwell. Now remember that polls just closed for Idaho at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, so we don't have a lot of those results coming in yet. But the Kuna School District is asking for $3.6 million, and they say that that money will go towards maintaining staffing levels and providing essential services for students. In Caldwell, they're asking for $4.1 million to help pay for transportation costs, facility maintenance, and school safety. Now again, we will be getting those results in throughout the next hour. We'll come with you live with those results here on idahonews.com and on our website. In the control room, I'm Savannah Hankard.
And I'm Marcos Guadarrama with the latest results on the Idaho House and Senate races. Now, those results are still coming in. Here's a look at Nancy Parker, Mike Moyle still at 0%, so we're going to continue to monitor them throughout the night. Again, District 10B, Democrat Shayna Tremaine and Republican Bruce Skog still 0% reporting on our end. And in District 13, you have Brian Lenny and Sarah Butler. Taking a look at District 14, you have Kristen Faith Richardson and C. Scott Grow. District 15A, Democrat Steve Birch, Republican Annette Tipton, and out in 15B, Republican Dory Healy, and Democrat Sherry Baber. Now, District 16, Democrat Ali Robbie, Republican Doug Risch are both on the ballot. District 16A, Democrat Sonia Galaviz, Republican Chandler Stewart, Hadraba more results are going to be coming soon to us, so stick with us as we monitor the results.
All right, Jacqueline, let's talk about Prop 1. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about. It's got a lot of campaigning behind it, and you think it could also be one of the drivers of turnout.
I mean, at least here in Idaho, there was a lot of campaigning, a lot of money spent, advertising. That type of stuff can help drive turnout. So far, we've only got about 15 to 19% of the votes in. No is leading, but there's a lot of votes to be counted.
Yeah, and when it comes to Prop 1, it's an interesting one too because of how much population boom there has been. And that's one of the things that, you know, this is kind of signaling, you've mentioned, is that there are a lot of people that feel like they're not being heard in the election process of Idaho.
Right. There's I think some folks are frustrated. We know that there are more people expressing concern about the direction of the state from a variety of ideological viewpoints, and so there may have been this motivation to reform how we run our elections. But there may have also been concerns with what was included as part of those reforms, including the ranked choice voting component.
And that is something that people in states around us are voting on tonight as well, Oregon, Utah, Montana. So it's something that a lot of states in the area are kind of facing with people moving into and coming to voice what they want in the elections.
Right, and we also have this growing polarization across the country, and I think, again, people are frustrated, don't feel that their elected officials represent them very well, or frustration with policy, and so election reform can often be something that people turn to.
And then what about when it comes to HJR 5? Let's talk about that update. It's a proposal to add non-citizens as not able to vote in the Idaho Constitution, but already at a federal and state level that is illegal.
Right, and so there were questions on how much impact or real change would this have, but it's also something that people may agree that yes, we need to keep elections safe and secure.
And we're going to keep talking here with Jacqueline throughout the night. Let's take another look at the presidential race elections for us as we can see the numbers start coming in. Again, Idaho called for Trump recently. We've got State Senator Ali Robb, Doug Risch. We're waiting for results on that and all the rest of the Senate results and state results. But again, the race for president called for Trump in Idaho. 68. That was the last year Idaho went for a party other than Republican. So no surprise here for electorates going to Trump from Idaho. We'll keep you updated as the results continue to come on in. We'll see you in a minute.
It'll get thrown back to the legislature one way or another. They'll get through it.
As you see the results come in tonight across the country, is there anything that sticks out to you or anything that concerns you?
You know, not really. We are electing a president tonight. That creates a lot of excitement, but it's only the president. The strength of America is not the president of the United States. The strength of America is the American people. The American people make us what we are. As long as we have the ability to be free, to have free and open elections, we're going to continue to be the strongest and most enviable country on the planet. I really believe that.
How do you feel about Idaho tonight? As you look and you talk to everyone around the room here that supports you and even some that may not support you, what's your message for Idaho?
Well, you know, I always tell people that one of the fondest wishes I have, I wish every Idahoan could stand in my shoes back in the U.S. Senate for a week or so. When you get off the airplane and you got back to Idaho, you'd kiss the ground here because this is a very, very special place with very special people. And it's an honor to represent this place. We are unique. We are different than a lot of parts of the United States. We don't have the kind of problems that they have in other places in America. Why? Because of the Idaho people.
Senator Jim Risch, we very much appreciate your time here tonight.
Thank you.
As well, just like all of us here are waiting for results. And we've got Trump called for Idaho here with our 4 electorates. Let's check in with Scott. He is live at the Republican Party happening here in Meridian. Probably a pretty upbeat place there right now as we're getting results in.
Janae, it's a very happy place here. Everyone's excited. The party atmosphere has really been increased over the last 30 minutes or so as some of these results come in. Now, we are waiting for Congressman Fulcher, who's standing next to me here. We're going to bring him in live. Congressman, thank you for appearing with us here tonight. Scott McClendon with Fox 9. Tell us what you're thinking here tonight as you watch these election results come in.
So what strikes me is you see the tremendous number of people that are coming out to vote. And I keep hearing the same question from people here, from people from the various lines that have been voting, and it's like, are we really better off than we were 4 years ago? And so I think that's the key question that people are asking themselves, and the answer is coming back as no, not really. And so I sense a change. I think there's a change coming not just in Idaho, but across the country. And so this could be one of those shifts across the country that we haven't seen in a long time.
How are you feeling about your race tonight?
You know, I feel pretty good. You know, we're in Idaho, and everybody wants to come to Idaho, right? And that means we're doing something right. And I have the privilege of serving already. I'm an incumbent. And that's a positive thing. But one of the things that we've tried to do, that I've tried to do, is just stay in touch with the people across this state and make sure that I know what's on their mind and make sure that I know the things that are important to them and then represent that. And if you do that, this job is not that hard. It's when you lose touch with the people is when you lose your job doing this whole political world. So I'm very thankful, and I think this is going to be a good night for America.
Well, we appreciate your time, Congressman Fulcher. Thank you so much for appearing on Fox 9. And that'll do it for us. We will have updates throughout the evening on Idaho races, congressional races, and the ballot initiatives. Janae, back to you.
And Fulcher there, by the way, with 12% of votes counted in District 1, he leads 70% to Kaylee Peterson's 27, 1% for the other candidates. Here's a look at the presidential race. We'll be back in just a moment. Fox 9 for our presidential and local election races here as we have results slowly coming in. We've got a live look at the White House as we are waiting for more results. Idaho called for Trump. Oregon just called for Kamala Harris. Let's check in now with Andrew Vincent for some of the Idaho races with results finally coming in.
Well, thanks, Janae. I'm live in the newsroom, and let's take a look at some results here for, or maybe not results, we don't have those just yet, but we're looking at Proposition 1, and with Proposition 1, that would be establishing a primary where all candidates are listed on a ballot regardless of party affiliation, and the proposition will also create ranked choice voting system in the general election. And this means that rather than selecting one candidate for office, voters could rank candidates in order of preference. And then if we look at HJR 5, this would be, if approved, the measure would amend the Idaho Constitution, requiring a person to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote in Idaho elections. Now, Idaho law already prohibits non-citizens from voting or registering to vote in the state for any state or local elections. And then finally, with the Nampa Auditorium District, this would be, voters would decide whether to support the auditorium district, and if approved, hotels will collect a user fee on rooms. And the money collected would then fund more developments and improvements at the Ford Idaho Center and Nampa Civic Center. So as we get more results, I'll be sure to share those with you. Back to you, Janae.
Well, I'm following races impacting education in Kuna and in Caldwell. Now, as Andrew said, results are slowly coming in as polls across the state closed just about 30 minutes ago. But information on those levies, the Kuna School District is asking for $3.6 million to maintain staffing levels and provide essential services for students. The Caldwell School District's levy is for $4.1 million. They say that's to help pay for transportation costs, facility maintenance, and school safety. Now, the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain, says that numbers for Canyon County should be in within the hour. As we get more results, we will share them with you here and on idahonews.com. Reporting in the control room, I'm Savannah Hinkard.
And I'm Marcos Guadarrama here with the latest results on Idaho House and Senate races. State Representative 10A, Republican Mike Moyle, and Democrat Nancy Parker. You see the Speaker of the House, Moyle, has taken a lead right there. District 10B, Democrat Shayna Tremaine and Republican Bruce Skog. Bruce Skog taking the lead with 81% of the vote. Now out in District 13, Republican Brian Lenny and Democrat Sarah Butler is still being reported, District 14, mind you, Senator C. Scott Grow, the Constitution Party, Kirsten Faith Richardson, 83% leading with Grow. Let's take a look at District 15A, Democrat Steve Birch and Republican Annette Tipton still at 0%. In 15B, Republican Dory Healy defeat Democrat Sherry Baber still at 0%. So we're going to continue to monitor these. State Senate District 16, Democrat Ali Robbie and Republican Doug Risch. Ali Robbie taking the lead there. And then down in District 16A, Democrat Sonia Galaviz, Republican Chandler Stewart Hadraba. Sonia still at 0%. So we're going to continue to take a look at these throughout the night.
All right, and here's another look at the presidential race on this election night in America. You can see some more states being called, and we are getting more results in as we have for these local races. We'll be checking in with those when we come right back.
The offer wasn't put out there to do it as well. So here we are, and I feel good about the results coming in tonight.
When you take a look at the results, taking a look across the country, what races in particular are you looking at? Because obviously you sit in the House of Representatives, and there's always that fight. We've been talking to you a lot about the fights that have been going on inside of the party in Washington, D.C., how some of that might change the dynamic moving forward. Does any race in particular stand out to you?
Well, there was an Ohio Senate race that I understand is being called for Moreno, which is a huge shift on the Senate side that could mean a potential shift in the majority to the Republicans in the Senate. As you know, we've got a very small majority in the House.
Right.
It's a huge 2-vote majority right now.
And if everybody doesn't get their way, they kick the speaker out.
That's exactly what happens. And when you push something through the legislative branch or try to push something through the legislative branch, you have to have the Senate too. And so when the House passes something, then it currently gets stalled in the Senate because it's got Democrat leadership. That looks like that might shift. And if that's the case, that means the legislative branch could be pulling all in the same direction, and that's a huge positive change, in my opinion, for the country.
We're seeing differing numbers coming in from different news organizations. Newsmax has one set. Scripps has another set. CNN has a set because right now it's Donald Trump up 211 to Harris 153. Some have Donald Trump with over 240 electoral votes. Does the attitude change if Trump is president? Does the attitude, we talked about that contentious attitude in the House from some certain members. I know you don't want to call anybody out by name, but from certain members, does that attitude change?
It does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. And, you know, when you've got the executive branch on the same side as the legislative branch, that also impacts the bureaucracies, your various agencies, Nate, your alphabet soup, the EPA, IRS, CIA, FBI, because they are reporting to a more unified leadership. And so this has a major impact. And, you know, I've been talking to people tonight and throughout the previous days in the early voting. And the old Reagan question is, are you better off
now
than you were 4 years ago, right? And that keeps coming back over and over and over again. It's like a replay in people's minds. Am I better off than I was 4 years ago? And I think for most people, and what we're seeing tonight in the map you're looking at, most people are saying, you know what, I'm really not. And so that has been the bottom line. It's not necessarily Republican, Democrat. It's just, where am I at economically? Where am I at on these social issues? And I think that's the bottom line. People are not happy with the direction things are going. They're not happy with an open border. They're not happy with the inflation. They're not happy at the gas pump. They're not happy at the grocery store. And I think what we are seeing on these maps tonight and the results coming in across the country are a result of that.
Inaugurations, but back on January 6th, the attack, you may remember, caused about 25,000 troops from around the country to deploy to D.C. and days after. A few states not sending their troops in 2021 when this happened over worries of violence at their own state capitals. All right, let's take a look now again at the presidential race. Election night here in America. We'll be back with the look at our live local results, statewide results, as those are really starting to come in now.
Prop 1, what made you say no to Prop 1?
Well, the messaging in favor of Prop 1 was it was for an open primary system. But the reality of it is it's for a ranked choice voting system. Those are two very, very different things. Ranked choice voting is a system, as we've seen in history by evidence of Alaska, for example, that puts the minority in a position of undue influence. And so it's a complicated system. It's not a simple argument to get into, but the bottom line is, for me, is ranked choice voting empowers the minority in a particular geographic region. And so Idaho was targeted mostly by outside
a lot of other
influence.
states too. Yeah,
and other states too. There's either 6 or 8. There's 6 or 8 states that have this on the ballot. And this was an initiative to try to change and empower the minority with a new influence. And that's what ranked choice voting does. If you got primarily Republicans, for example, in a state like Idaho, you're going to have probably more Republican candidates and Democrat ballots. If you rank choice vote them, the way that it works is the Republicans and whoever is in the majority tends to cancel each other out, and the minority tends to advance. And so I opposed that, and tried to message accordingly, and it looks like most people are seeing that that's how that it works. It's not really about open primaries, it's about ranked choice, and I think the truth is coming out on that.
And we talk about the interpersonal part of politics because politics is relationships. There's a number of people that are Republicans, friends, colleagues at the very least, when you talk about Marv Hagedorn, you talk about Butch Otter, who came out in favor of Prop 1. Was there anything behind the scenes on that as far as any calls, any emails, any discussions, say, here's why I'm for it, here's why I'm against it, or the chips fell where they are the game is going on?
I don't have any conversation. Good people can disagree.
Yeah.
Right? And so that might be as simple as this whole thing is. And, that's what's great about America. That's what's great about Idaho. We can have a debate. We can disagree. But we try not to be disagreeable while we're doing it. But I'll tell you what, I think the facts have a way of surfacing.
It's coming in slowly here for the presidential election. We got a live look at the White House, where that is the prize for either Trump or Harris tonight. If she wins, she'll be the first woman elected president. If Trump wins, he'll be the first felon and oldest president elected as well. So far, though, he is in the lead. Republicans really showing out and turning up in this election here, and we'll continue to keep that up with bringing you results of what is coming in here. They did meet for the first time during that September debate on stage, so that was something we all got to witness when we watched that debate, their first meeting, and now the big race between them. Let's check in with Andrew Vinton as we are getting results in now for our statewide elections. Andrew?
Well, thanks, Janae. I'm live in the newsroom, and yeah, let's go take a look at some of those results that we've been voting on tonight. So for first, Proposition 1, as you can see there, 59.8% voting no and 40.2% voting yes. Now looking at HJR 5, 59.8% voting yes, 40.4% voting no. And then finally, the Nampa Auditorium District in favor, 37.69%, and against 62.31%. So as we get more results, I'll be sure to share those with you.
Well, I'm following races impacting education in Kuna and Caldwell. Kuna asking for $3.6 million and Caldwell asking for $4.1. So it looks like we are not having any results in as of now. Remember, they just started coming in about 40 minutes ago as polls across the state closed at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Now the Kuna School District is asking for their supplemental levy to maintain staffing levels. The Caldwell School District is looking to help pay for transportation costs, facility maintenance, and school safety. Now, Secretary Phil McGrain just said that numbers for Canyon County should be coming in within the next hour. As we get those results, we will share them here and on idahonews.com. In the control room, I'm Savannah Hankard.
As we get more results from the Idaho House and Senate races, we'll also continue to report, taking a look at some of the ones already reported. You have Mike Moyle leading District 10A right here. And now in District 10B, Bruce Skog leading with 81% to his opponent Shayna Tremaine. Taking a look at District 13, Republican Brian Lenny still at 0%. We're still awaiting that information to come into our newsroom. District 14, Republican Senator C. Scott ahead in that election, 83% against their opponent. District 15A, Democrat Steve Birch, Republican Annette Tipton also calling still too soon to call. Looking at 15B, Republican Dory Healy and Democrat Sherry Baber. Baber in the lead with 4,400 votes. Now let's take a look at District 16. Democrat Ali Robbie, Republican Doug Risch. Ali Robbie in the lead with 66% of the votes. Looking at District 16, Sonia Galaviz, Republican Chandler Stewart Hadraba. Hadraba in the lead currently, and we are awaiting more results.
We are having...
Well, I'm here at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise, and just a few minutes ago, the national desks on the TVs behind us called the state of Idaho for Donald Trump, and the room erupting in a chorus of boos. But there is a lot of excitement about local races here at the Democratic Party, and I'm joined again by Lauren Nicocea. Lauren, how's the night progressing? How are the candidates that are running this year in Idaho feeling right now?
I think they're feeling hopeful. It's still very early, and we're going to be watching those results come in. But there's just, there's so much determination we have to do the hard work to make things better in Idaho. With, 4 women have already died nationally because of abortion bans that look just like Idaho's. We have to make change to save the lives of women, but it also comes down to saving Medicaid expansion, saving our public school funding and preventing it from being siphoned away by costly voucher schemes, protecting our launch scholarships. This was our governor's kind of the centerpiece of his agenda. It only passed because of Democrats. High school seniors are applying for those scholarships now to become welders or our next generation of nurses. Good jobs with good wages that are going to drive our economy. A majority of Republicans voted to defund that program after last year's seniors got their award letters. And so it matters so much to just what Idaho working families have access to and their chances for success. And so we have to elect more Democrats in Idaho.
Well, and so there were a couple of battleground districts that I was made aware of. So 6, 15, 26, and 29. Those are Moscow, West Boise, the Wood River Valley, and the Pocatello area. How are those races going? Are you keeping your eye on any of them in particular tonight?
It's still early. We're looking at all of them. The Senate races in particular are getting a lot of attention because the worry is that the Senate in Idaho has been a little bit, it's weakened in recent years, but a little bit of a backstop to some of the far, far right things that the House has done. The House, the book banning bill we have in statute is not good. The previous version of that was going to put librarians in jail, and luckily the Senate in Idaho didn't hear that bill. If a certain number of Republicans get elected tonight, the Senate could fall into far-right leadership and control, and what that would mean is bills like that would get passed and sail through and be on their way to becoming law.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. I appreciate it. I'm Dakota Castets, DJ. We're here at the Grove Hotel at the Democratic Party's election watch party, and we'll be back with more reporting in just a little bit.
All right, live look at the presidential race happening right now. Election results still coming in. By the way, we did get some results in for Kuna school levy now, 27% reporting with a 54% yes on that. Caldwell still waiting on today's results, but so far with early voting, split half and half, yes and no. We'll be back with more results on what's going on in our live election coverage. Back to our live election coverage. The presidential election, one of the big ones we're watching here as states are rolling in. Of course, we've still got some key states that have not reported their results yet. We don't expect full results in tonight, by the way. We do expect those to start trickling in throughout the overnight hours and into tomorrow. Now, when it comes to voters choosing their top issues, why they chose who they did for president, a lot of them say it was the economy and immigration. Over 100,000 people answering a nationwide AP poll on priorities. 40% saying the economy was at their top, 20% immigration, 10% abortion. About 8 in 10, so about 80% saying that they want at least substantial change in how the country is run either way. Now, when it comes to champion candidates, when those issues arise, AP VoteCast showing Trump with the advantage for economy and immigration, Harris the stronger candidate for abortion and health care, and for taxes, voters evenly divided between the two. Later this week, when it comes to money, we do expect the Federal Reserve to cut rates by 0.25%. The Fed wants to lower rates slowly, especially as inflation drops toward their 2% target. Last month, it was harder to understand the economy's path after the hurricanes and labor strikes impacting the labor market. Stocks ending the day up as traders waiting for election results had to end. The Dow adding more than 400 points, S&P 500 70, the Nasdaq nearly 260 points. The congressional race results could mean big changes on spending and taxes. Shares of Trump's social media company plunging, losing most of their double-digit gains that came this morning. A 5-minute halt happening this afternoon. Then after trades turning negative before, then another halt. Truth Social considered a meme stock. That means its value is driven mainly by how traders feel about Trump's chances in the election, among other situations occurring around what is happening in his life. More results, more context, and more perspective coming up here on CBS 2 News at 10 and Fox 9. National election coverage from Fox News. We'll be back.
Of leadership in America.
And as your president, I will fight for you every single day with every breath in my body.
Polling closed in Idaho, ballots being counted, the latest updates from the election as the whole nation waits. We are breaking down the data nationwide, statewide, and local here at home.
I'm here at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise at the Democratic Watch Party for the election. The tone here a little bit subdued as it's getting late and people are leaving, but the message is that this is like the last election cycle, and organizers are telling me that they're emphasizing patience. We'll have more details in an interview in just a little bit.
And And I'm Scott McClendon at the Republican headquarters here. A celebratory night. The village people and YMCA are playing, and a lot of people are partying here as these results come in. We're going to interview a couple folks here for you and have the breakdown of some of these results coming right up.
This is a local election night update.
And as we approach the top of the hour, let's take a look at the latest results for the race for president. You can see we got Kamala Harris with 191, Trump with 227. Idaho, as you see, called for Trump. Oregon, Washington called for Harris. Idaho voting Republican since 1968, so not a huge surprise here. Trump did also win in 64% back in 2020. These are the results right now with him in Idaho, 60%, 37% with Kamala Harris. Idaho bringing 4 electoral votes to the counter here. Harris would be the first woman, if elected, first South Asian person of descent. And Trump, if he's elected, would be the first felon and the oldest president elected at this point as well. So looking like right now he is in the lead. And we've got live coverage throughout Idaho, our team coverage happening with our state results, our local results. So we've got all our reporters ready for you, bringing you those as those do trickle in here. Our polls here in Idaho have been closed for about an hour, including up north, 2 hours down here in southern Idaho. We've got reporters on all the issues, the biggest ones we're talking about. And we've also got Boise State's political scientist, Dr. Jacqueline Kettler, with us, helping us put things into perspective and understanding what these numbers mean for our lives. We've got live local coverage, as you saw in the headlines, at both Idaho watch parties tonight. Dakota at the Grove Hotel with Idaho Democrats, Scott with Republicans at the Courtyard Marriott in Meridian. 2 very different feels when it comes to those parties there. Let's check in with Scott first, where, Scott, it actually sounds like a party going on there with Republicans.
Janae, it's definitely a party here. I mean, it's been partying for about the last 45 minutes, and they're watching these results come through, and most of them are all turning toward the Republican side. So joining us now, Thad Butterworth, the chair of the Ada County GOP. Thad, walk us through what you're feeling and what you're seeing here tonight.
Well, I think we're seeing great results for the Republicans all across the board, from the national even down to our local. Seeing great numbers on Prop 1. It looks like that is going to fail. We're seeing most of our candidates are looking like they're going to win. So overall, it's a great night for Republicans. We're really excited.
Did you expect this type of level of success or excitement at this point?
Yeah, I actually did. In the last few days, the numbers I've been seeing internally and that sort of stuff gave me a lot more confidence of where we sat.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, early results so far, Prop 1 currently failing, HJR 5 passing. Any thoughts on those so far?
Well, I'm really happy that the people of Idaho are seeing through the kind of the mess that Prop 1 would have created for us. So this gives us the continued free, clear elections that are clear results, easy to vote, that kind of stuff. So that's really exciting. The HJR was a pretty easy ask for us, I think, because people want to see only citizens voting in our elections. So it made good sense.
And we did see the results, very preliminary, about 3% reporting so far, but Congressman Fulcher with a large lead so far.
Yeah, that's not surprising to me. Congressman Fulcher is well known. He's done a great job for us, and so we're really excited that he's going back in to help us more.
Anything else that you're keeping an eye on tonight, both from the Ada County, maybe the commissioner elections, or anything statewide, state senator, state house?
Yeah, so the ones I'm watching, of course, are all of our county positions, and we're looking really good on all of those, from the commissioners and the sheriff, the coroner. There we go. Yeah, all those are looking really good for us. Statewide, one of the ones I've been watching is District 15. I know that the team there put in an incredible amount of effort, so we're hoping to see really good results for them as well.
Yeah, and from a turnout perspective, what have you seen so far here in Idaho?
The turnout has been phenomenal. Everybody I've talked to, they had at least some weight, which is good. I mean, you know, you don't like to wait that much, but it really speaks to the engagement of the citizens, and the amount of Republicans that are coming in and wanting to be involved and wanting to vote is really good.
And I know one more you were paying attention to was the Ada County Sheriff's race. Walk us through that and what you're seeing.
So far, it looks like Matt Clifford is ahead and winning. So from the Republican standpoint, that is good news. And, you know, it's not surprising to me because we've had so much turnout from the Republicans themselves that they've been, from everything we've been doing with our Get Out the Vote campaigns and all that, we've been seeing great results from them. So,
And on the national side, we're seeing, obviously, there's been a couple of Senate seats that have flipped. Ohio, West Virginia. What are you seeing along those lines in terms of the Senate passing hands?
It looks really good for the Senate, for the Republicans taking control of the Senate. I think we're probably going to maintain control of the House as well, maybe even make some gains there. Overall, it's just been this has been a Republican election all across the nation.
And when you get into that, and now it's still close. I mean, Donald Trump is ahead in the Electoral College over Kamala Harris, but the blue wall still sitting there. Any final thoughts on that this evening?
I think at the end of the night, we're going to see Trump win this handily. So, but we may have to wait a little bit for the results because those are some pretty complicated races there. So,
all right. Thank you, Thad Butterworth, Chair of the Ada County GOP. We'll continue to bring you more election information as the night goes on. Janae, back to you.
All right, now let's check in with Dakota, who's live at the Grove Hotel in downtown Boise, where Idaho Democrats have been gathering. And Dakota, you said it's kind of starting to calm down out there.
Well, things are winding down here at the Grove Hotel at the Democratic Watch Party for today's election. A lot of people have moved out, but the message as people were wrapping up this evening was patience. A lot of remembering of the 2020 election and how long that process took. Democrats told me they're still confident that they have a strong chance at the White House and that they're keeping a close eye on all of the contested races across Idaho, including the Proposition 1 vote. That said, this party here is in the process of wrapping up, and we will continue to bring you updates from Democrats as we hear them throughout the week. But it looks like for the Democrats here at the Grove Hotel, this might just be it for tonight.
All right, here's a look at the presidential race with the Electoral College votes right here. And then also, by the way, with Trump being called for Idaho, I was just taking a look at the popular vote, 57% reporting in Idaho, Trump with 51%, Harris with 48%. So the popular votes, a different story, a closer race between the two. And we're going to be going back and forth looking at all of this throughout what's going on with more states that could be called throughout the race as we see the more. Again, the blue wall we're still waiting on, and we'll share the results as we check in throughout the newscast. Let's check in now, though, on more of the local races, the statewide races. Andrew Vincent back in the newsroom with looking at things like Prop 1, Andrew.
Yeah, Janae, we've been watching these numbers come in tonight, and let's get right to them. First off, with Proposition 1, we can see right there 66% voting no, that's just above 200,000 votes, and 34% voting yes. And looking at HJR 5, 63% voting yes and 37% voting no. And then finally for the Nampa Auditorium District, 58% voting yes and 42% voting no. Now, as we get more results, we'll be sure to share those with you.
We've got Boise State political scientist Dr. Jacqueline Kettler with us. Again, Jacqueline, we're starting to see the results come in. Prop 1 is one of those ones that everybody has been talking about a lot today because well, it's got a lot of campaigning around it, and you can see the Republicans pretty happy with the results so far.
Right. So far, we've got a little over 35% of the votes counted, and no is leading with 65%. That's going to be pretty hard to see, just to see that change much, I think, as we go along. And so now there's some questions about why, right? Maybe why, despite all of the campaigning, despite some people being frustrated, why wasn't it successful? Maybe it was that ranked choice voting component.
And the push for change may not be over once this result is over, right? If it does fail, that doesn't mean that there could be more talk about change when it comes to trying to get primary voting up and changes in the way the elections are run.
For sure, and especially if people are really interested in primary reform, we might see proposals that target just that.
It'll be interesting to see what the states around us are doing with their ranked choice votes going on right now too. All right, so let's talk about the constitutional amendment, that being voted down or voted for so far being accepted. Let's talk about why you think that is and what this signals about Idahoans.
Well, I think many Idahoans probably were like, yes, I think it is important to keep our elections safe and secure. And so it made sense, right? You go into the ballot, read that measure and agree with with the intent behind that. There were some questions about how broad of effects it might have, so we'll kind of wade through that moving forward.
Yeah, because it has the word any Idaho election in it, right? So it's like, okay, at what level does any cover?
Exactly.
And these results obviously still going to be coming in throughout the night. Let's check in now with Savannah. She's got some updates on the races involving education as those numbers are starting to come in. Savannah?
There are a few that we are keeping our eyes on tonight, so let's take a look at those results. The Kuna school levy asking for $3.6 million. Right now it's looking at a 53% of people saying yes, 47% saying no. That's around 3,000. The Caldwell School District, they're asking for $4.1 million. Now this is looking really, really close. They're both at 50%, just under, or about 30 to 40 people swaying that vote there. We will be continuing to get results in throughout the rest of the night. As those results come in, we'll share them here and on idahonews.com. Reporting in the control room, I'm Savannah Hankard.
Now here's a look at some of the latest results on Idaho House and Senate races. State Rep 10A, Republican Mike Moyle taking the lead for District 10A, 81% right there. Taking a look at District 10B, Bruce Skog taking the lead with 81%. His opponent Shayna Tremaine. Now out in District 13, Republican Brian Lenny with the lead at 79%. His opponent Sarah Butler, 21%. Looking at District 14, Republican Senator C. Scott Grow taking the lead in that race. Now we're still waiting for some of these races to come down. I think we have District 15A there, Steve Birch in the lead. That's against his opponent, Annette Tipton, at 45%. Looking at 15B, Republican Dory Healy, Democrat Sherry Baber. Baber in the lead there with 51%. Now out in District 16, Democrat Ali Robbie and Republican Doug Risch. Robbie taking the lead in that district with 65%. Looking at District 16A, Democrat Sonia Galaviz and Republican Chandler Stewart. Hadraba Galaviz in the lead with 67%.
Now, some of the top issues for voters this election day, according to AP, with 100,000 people being talked to. We've got about 40% saying it's the economy, 20% saying immigration, about 10% saying abortion, and about 80% saying they just want substantial change either way in how the country is run. And when it comes to candidates championing those issues, AP VoteCast shows Trump with the advantage for economy and immigration, Harris the stronger candidate for abortion and health care, and for taxes, voters evenly divided between the two. We've got to look at the presidential race again here for you as the numbers are updating. 208 for Harris, 227 for Trump. This is election night in America. We'll be back with our live and local coverage on what's happening nationwide, statewide, and here in the Treasure Valley. Also, as we come back, we will be looking at how exactly your votes are counted. And we continue to break down the numbers of how our local Congress races are looking as those continue to be coming in as well.
is a local election night update.
Welcome back. The presidential election will be determined, of course, by the Electoral College. Here's how that works. To explain that to you, state political parties choose their electors. Those are the names you see under the president candidate's name on the ballot. We had the Secretary of State saying when you're voting for the president, you're actually voting for them. Each state gets the same number of electors as it has members in the House and Senate, and the District of Columbia gets 3, the D.C. area, for a total of 538. The candidate needs a majority, so at least 270 to win. That's why you see that scale when it comes to the presidential election. On Election Day, votes go into the statewide tally with 48 states using a winner-takes-all electoral vote system. A projected winner typically announced within days of the election. That's why we're saying we don't necessarily think we'll know the results tonight. But the Electoral College vote when electors meet in their states to vote. That is happening in mid-December. The Constitution doesn't require electors to vote for their party's nominee, but they almost always do, and some states do require it on their level. All right, we've got Jacqueline here, our political scientist, talking about some of the closest races happening in the Idaho House and Senate tonight. And you were mentioning some of them are really close right now.
Yeah, District 15, which we've been talking about tonight. Right now, the results are very, very close, with Democrats in the lead in 2 of the 3, and so we've still got votes coming in and be counted, and I think those are going to be really close as we continue to see votes come in.
With results so far coming in with differing levels for areas, is there anything surprising to you with what we're seeing so far?
I mean, so far things look pretty similar to what we'd expect.
Yeah.
Last time, we've seen really close races in ACHD, the Ada County Highway District. So far, those don't look very close, which is kind of interesting. But otherwise, a lot of the races are looking like we'd expect.
Now, with the results coming in too, is there anything that is unexpected in results to what happened throughout the election? It seemed like everything went pretty smooth throughout the state of Idaho when it came to polling.
Yeah, I mean, there were some long lines at different locations, but otherwise we haven't seen major issues.
All right, we're going to be talking with Jacqueline one more time as we've got our 15 minutes left. But right now, let's check in with Roland so you can get a look at your post-election forecast out there.
Other than some of the winds that we had today around the region, it was a pretty nice day to get out there and stand in line. And right now we have clear skies. The temperatures are going to be dropping down easily into the 30s range. But I want you to focus on what's happening out here in the Pacific Ocean. This is an extremely large area of high pressure that's forming. Look at how all of a sudden the storm track is being pushed up here to the north. That is the center of the high, and that high is going to move from the Pacific Ocean right over and on top of the state of Idaho. So it is going to pretty much all but guarantee a lot of sunshine in the forecast here over the next few days. So with the high pressure in place, we're going to stay mostly sunny and dry right through Friday. Then the high pressure begins to weaken, go away a little bit here toward the end of the weekend, and we could start seeing a change in the pattern where yet another series of storms starts coming in from the Pacific Ocean. So that's not going to happen until probably sometime during the day on Sunday. So plans right now to get out there and enjoy the clear skies looks good to me. In fact, it's going to be a crystal clear sky day tomorrow, and it's going to be equally beautiful on Thursday. Look at all of that dry air that's going to be hanging out over the region. So region by region, look at the temperature readings tonight. In fact, Cascade and McCall getting down into the single digits tonight. It's going to get cold. High temperatures tomorrow, hovering right around the mid-30s in Long Valley. Council at about 46. Weiser will see lows tonight in the 20s, as will Payette, Ontario, and Emmett, with high temperatures tomorrow rebounding into the 40s. So sunny skies, a little less wind. I'd say overall a pretty nice day, with temperature readings hitting 46 in Kuna. That's going to be below the average for this time of the year by about 8 degrees or so. And Mountain Home tonight gets down to 20 degrees, Boise down to 24, and Meridian down to 23. So here we go, the 7-day forecast for the Treasure Valley. It is going to be gorgeous through Friday. We start getting a little more cloud cover on Saturday, a hint that something is starting to change in the atmosphere, and that something will be a return of the jet stream, the storm track, on Sunday. So chance of showers on Sunday. Rain is going to be likely on Monday, and a chance of showers again on Tuesday, with temperatures wanting to stay at or below the average for the next 5 to 7 days. For the mountains, there could be some areas of fog in the morning, otherwise plenty of sunshine in the afternoon, not only tomorrow, but also on Thursday. Friday, the high hits 44 in McCall. On Saturday, shower chance. So the showers will start moving in a little bit earlier in the mountains on Saturday. A little rain-snow mix on Sunday, rain-snow mix on Monday, and a chance of snow again right around Tuesday of next week. So yeah, it's going to dry out here for the next few days, but don't worry because the storm track is going to come back. It'll start depositing snow once again in our mountains.
And here's another look at the presidential election as the results are still coming in. Several states still uncalled at this point. Idaho, of course, called for Trump, voting Republican since 1968. Popular vote, though, him with 51%, Kamala Harris with 48%. We'll be back with more coverage on this election night in America, local and live. What'll be happening when we come back? Don't go anywhere. New numbers coming in all night. They'll be scrolling under your screen. And we're also helping you understand the numbers that's coming in and the results, as we see with our political scientist here, Dr. Jacqueline Kettler from Boise State. She'll be breaking down what's going on with the numbers next.
Is a local election night update.
As we're awaiting results, we'll be looking at some more headlines throughout the day. Trump alleging election problems in Philadelphia before the polls even closing there. On his Truth Social, him posting a lot of talk about massive cheating in Philadelphia, law enforcement coming, but no immediate reports of issues in Philadelphia, and he doesn't mention any evidence to back up his claim. The city's district attorney, a Democrat, telling CNN earlier in the evening that there hadn't been any issues.
We have been dispatching lawyers and police officers and detectives all day to make sure everything was smooth, and it has been, in this cycle, just as in the last cycle, pretty smooth.
Philadelphia has an election task force, and the DA already promising to prosecute if anything did happen, but so far no arrests or anything. Trump making similar accusations back in 2020 when he did lose a swing state, to which he still has not presented any evidence to back up that claim from 2020. So far, the voting process mostly going smoothly here in Idaho and nationwide, but a few isolated problems, normal, including long lines, technical glitches, but there have also been some bogus bomb reports at polling places in some battleground states. The FBI says they seem to be coming from foreign actors.
These are unsubstantiated threats. We have no reason to believe that any of our voters or any of our polling places are in any sort of jeopardy.
The FBI thinks maybe from Russian email domains, but saying, again, none of those threats seem credible.
Georgia's not going to be intimidated. Russia has just decided they picked on the wrong Georgia. They need to pick on the other one in the Black Sea, because we're not going to be intimidated.
Now, because of the threats, a judge did order extended voting hours in several Fulton County polling spots. Elsewhere, local elections officials say issues didn't seem to be malicious there. In Story County, Iowa, voting machines in some of those precincts didn't work, leaving election workers hand counting ballots. In Pennsylvania, a county there, a judge ordering polls to remain open for 2 extra hours, asking for extensions after a software malfunction affecting their ballot scanning machines. Now, the outcome of this election right now, we're still waiting on, but we're also waiting on the feds. We do expect them to cut rates this week. Investors anticipating about a 0.25% drop later this week. Feds already signaling that they want to do the drop slowly after raising rates. Inflation moving down toward their 2% target. And it was more challenging over last month to try and understand where the economy is going. Now they're getting more of a feel after the hurricanes and labor strikes impact on the labor market, and now coming out of those. All right, another look at the presidential race. Again, we're still waiting on several states to come in. It is election night on America. We'll have more live and local election coverage and analysis when we come back. We've got your all-night election coverage here, final breakdown of the presidential race and other local and statewide races.
And the Republicans seem to catch a lot of blame, but we've only had control by a very small majority of the U.S. House, half of the legislative branch, 2 votes. Smallest majority in the history of Congress over the course of the term. But today, at the polls, what I'm hearing is Americans are answering the question, are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? And I think what we're hearing across the country is no. However, thanks to you, thanks to Republicans across this country, I think we're about to get some help. You know, the federal races, there's a very stark difference, especially in the presidential race. And they both have a track record. It's not one of these things where it's just words. You can actually take and you can validate actions. What did President Trump do during his tenure? What has Kamala Harris done in her tenure? There's a track record. And I think Americans across this country are seeing the truth. And I know that Idahoans are seeing the truth. And I just have to tell you, I am so proud. I'm so proud to represent you. Idaho is the best place in this country. We're the fastest growing state per capita in the country, and that's for a reason, folks. We're the best place to live, to work, and to raise a family. And in this state, we have the character to lead this nation back to prosperity. This is a model state. I have members, colleagues all the time covet what I've got with the constituency in this state. They wish that they had what we have here. People are coming here for a reason. And it's the traditional constitutional principles and it's the faith in God that's going to take us back to our prosperity, folks. And I think we're being blessed tonight. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank those who worked so hard to make this happen. Thank you. God bless you. Now let's go lead America back.
Thank you, everybody. You guys are presidential race nationwide. You can see not a change happening since the last time we checked in on it. Idaho called for Trump, as well as neighboring Montana, Oregon, and Washington called for Harris. This will be something that gets updated throughout the night for you on idahonews.com, on our social media as well, as results keep coming in with those states that are counting. We've got Jacqueline here still talking with us to wrap things up, talking about what we've been seeing in the races. Let's talk about the big races here in Idaho. We've been keeping track of Prop 1, HJR 5. Let's talk about Prop 1 first and what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, so far, no has a healthy lead at 66%. That's 42% of votes counted, so still a lot of votes to come in, especially in some of the north areas of the state, things like that. But so far, it seems pretty hard for the yes vote to kind of be successful at this point.
And the opposite for HJR 5, the no or the yes is being pretty dominant here, and that again would be on the conservative side of voting, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Senate and the House races. Some of those are looking really close, and some of them not so much.
Yeah, in District 15, the leads keep switching, so that's going to be one that throughout the night we'll probably be watching. It may come down to the final few votes.
Yeah, okay, and so we've got the results still going for you on idahonews.com as we're wrapping up here. Thanks for joining us for our live election coverage.
Well, I don't know the numbers, but what I'm being told and the member traffic is that the majority is growing, and so it's not losing ground.
U.S. Senate now changed hands into the Republican side. Walk us through that and how you feel about that.
Absolutely huge for Republicans, and here's why. So for the last couple of years, the House has had major legislation that we've been able to pass through the House. Then it reaches Chuck Schumer's Senate, and it reaches a blockade. Doesn't move any further. When you consider that, now we have potentially the ability to work through the legislative branch, both House and Senate. Now that legislation makes its way to the White House, and it also looks like we might have a change there. So I think that we're in a position.
Idahoans were interested in going out and casting their vote.
And some of the things that, pushing that turnout, obviously president, so we've got a lot of opinions there, but then Prop 1 is a big one for Idaho too.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's a lot of campaigning on that measure, a lot of campaign ads and money spent, and get out the vote efforts as well. So those types of races can also have some impact.
And one of the kind of things that we're waiting to see with having Idaho have such a big population boom since the last election was how things would look, and it still looks pretty Republican when it comes to results.
So far, from top to the bottom of the ballot, it looks like Republicans are having a good election in Idaho. We have a few of these really close legislative districts across the state, but my guess is Republicans are looking Republicans are quite happy with the results so far in the state.
And what do you think that says about Idahoans and their satisfaction with the state?
Well, I think we have seen a lot of growth, and a lot of that growth coming into the state appear to be conservative voters, right? And so
kind of reinforcing
right, existing trends. Exactly. And then also like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
We can cut it together too, it's okay.
I'm like, just totally lost my train of thought. So this incoming growth really reinforcing existing partisan lines.
Anything else that we should be talking about for the morning show when we cut this together?
Well, I think there are still, there are some of these legislative districts that may be really close, and so we'll have to wait and see what happens in them. Otherwise, I think,
I know by now it's just like, oh, we've talked about everything 100 million times. Okay, thank you, Nate.